The early medieval period in India was a distinctive epoch, very different from the early historical and the later medieval periods. In this episode, we shall discuss the social structure of early medieval India. It would be important to see in what ways the distinctive features of the early medieval period were different from the situation prior to 600 AD. According to recent scholars, the hallmark of this epoch lies in the pronounced regional features in almost all aspects of life.
The early medieval phase, spanning from 600 to 1300 AD, has attracted a multiplicity of approaches to its study. We are referring to Medatithi's commentary on Monu, Jimutpahun's Daibhag, Maskarin's commentary on Gautama Dharma Sutra, Bhavaswami's commentary on Naradiya Manu Samhita, Bharuchi's Vivarana on Manu, and a very important text, Mitakshara, written by Vignaneshwar, which is a commentary on Yaggavalkya Sriti. Now, it would be interesting to see how these differences are coming out in these texts. Many times we find that there are contradictions within one text and sometimes a lot of differences appearing between the texts. It is in this backdrop that we would like to take up the study of social structure. There is a proliferation of jatis during this period, and what is very interesting is that you find that there is sometimes a division in some of the texts between two categories, the Dijo, here meaning the twice born or the Brahman, and the Oddijo. Now, Oddijo would actually mean all non-Brahmana groups. Now, it is very interesting that the Brahma Vaivarta Purana of the 14th, 15th century is talking about 102 jatis in the case of Bengal. Now, this proliferation of jatis, how do you explain this proliferation of jatis? And we also find that, many times the jati and the varna, these two terms are being used interchangeably. The lawgivers would like to believe that there were these numerous matrimonial combinations and permutations, and the offsprings who were the outcome of these combinations and permutations, they were getting distinct identities, jati identities of their own. So there was a proliferation of jatis. Now, we could actually see this in terms of recent scholarship. We could actually see this when we look at certain conditions which were prevailing during this time. What is happening during this time? That there was an agrarian expansion into peripheral marginal areas, and you see that many of these Brahmana or elite groups were given land in these marginal tracts. So they were carrying their Varna model, Varna theoretical Varna, Jati Varna model into these peripheral areas where there was the previously existing simpler lineage society. So this was one process. Another thing that we are finding is that many of these occupational groups were getting crystallized into endogamous jatis. And then you're finding the induction of many of the non-indigenous groups, like the Mlechos and some other groups within the social structure. So we have to keep this general background in mind when we are talking about the early medieval society and the proliferation of